It's Trends O'Clock. This is Trends KE with KK Cedric.
Let's get started with this conversation. I am bringing on board this amazing gentleman here. Let me just add him right away into the stream. Coming up, that is him, the youngest PR professional of the year 2019, Mr. William Dekker. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Cedric. At least now the viewers can see that actually what you see in the poster is different from what you find on the ground. Yeah?
What you request versus what is brought.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much. Youngest PR professional of the year 2019. Where is your trophy banner?
It's not always fine. It's always somewhere next to me here.
Yes.
Let me just reach for it. This one, you mean?
Wow. Congratulations, Mr. Dekker. What does it take? Maybe some of us might be following suit. What does it take to get into to win that trophy that you're holding right there?
Oh, thank you. So the Young PR Professional of the Year is an award given by the PRSK. PRSK is the Public Relations Society of Kenya. And every year there's awards for excellence, trying to recognize and appreciate those who have contributed to the profession through their own aspects of excellence in the areas of work. Of course, mine is based on my work that I do on a daily basis. I'm passionate about communication and public relations. And more importantly, I'm passionate about health, so communicating around health. And so for the year 2019, there were a number of achievements. I'm not able to list all of them here, but then they contributed to what you see now in this trophy as the 2019 Young PR Professional of the Year. Of course, the word young is assigned to it because then for one to win this, then you have to be under 28 years old. Yeah. So at 2019, I was less than 28 years old. I don't know if I'm still at that age to this point. I won't divulge because you haven't asked.
You won't go beyond that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Asante sana. And congratulations actually on that win. It's a big win, and it also motivates those of us who are right behind you so that we can also work harder to get some of those trophies and many others. And I'm seeing even before we start the conversation, you have a great following. You have someone here who is saying, say hello to Dekker Sa Inram. Do you know Benjamin Marani?
Benja. Hi to you over there. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you. And everyone else who's tuned in. Yeah.
Yes, that's Benjamin Marani is called Sainram. So let's get into this conversation and help some people out here. So as you know, in Kenya, the rate of unemployment is so high, and people are looking for jobs. Some don't have the jobs. They are still looking for jobs. And then we shall kill those birds with the same stone, whatever that saying says, because also, at the same time, there are those people who don't have jobs, but they decide to create their own jobs. So they become the employers. They are running their own businesses. And then those who look for jobs end up getting the jobs. But there is a bridge there between looking for the job and getting the job. There is what you're supposed to do there. Then for those who are running their own businesses, before we get into the exacts of each of these three aspects that you're going to talk about tonight, first of all, what is this cardinal point that someone is supposed to know while communicating in this professional environment? What are these exact things that you have to know while you are communicating in a professional environment?
Thank you for that, Cedric. And of course, you've asked many questions. And as you say, killing multiple birds with one stone. And that's what we'll try to do with one answer. It's the principle of alignment. One thing we actually less often talk about is the principle of alignment in communication. And I'll give examples if this one sounds too huge and sort of as buzzwords. Yeah. So this is what happens whenever you are communicating, whether to your customers, a business owner, or whether you're communicating as a job seeker or somebody who's trying to enter into a career path in a certain way, and you're writing your motivation letter, your cover letter, but also communicating at the point of interview or even the job search itself, there's one principle, we call it the principle of alignment. Whether it's in marketing where you're trying to sell a product to the end user, again, it's the principle of alignment. And whether it's in corporate communication and, of course, PR aspect to it, it's also the principle of alignment. How does this apply? So if you're communicating to a prospective employer, either in your cover letter, your CV, or even in a job interview, most of the time we only communicate, and we say communicating is giving out your need, communicating your intent. But we forget that besides communicating your intent, your communication or your intent should be communicated in a way that it is aligned to the intent, the needs, the desires, or the expectations of whoever you're communicating to. That means if you're communicating to a prospective employer, you're communicating your job skills, your abilities, your career experience, your qualifications. All those should be communicated in a way that it is aligned to what the employer wants in terms of the right skill set, the right career experience, as well as the right qualifications. So that means in case you're writing a cover letter, it doesn't matter to know that Cedric or Dekker here is a 10th born of 20 siblings. It doesn't matter to the employer. What matters is I, as an employer, for example, in that case, I am looking for somebody who can do, for example, digital marketing nicely like Cedric. So then it means in my cover letter, I have to give all those qualifications in a way that it resonates with why they want it. It's the same way if you are selling a product and today you are selling this nice cup of mine, which I'll show for the longest time.
Wow.
If you are selling this mug, I love laughing. So this is my.
Well, it's a nice one, actually.
Thank you. So if I'm selling this mug, I don't need to tell somebody, hey, I have a nice mug over here. Do you want it? No. I say, I'm selling this mug over here. The reason I'm selling to you this mug is because I know you like nice cup of tea, but you just don't like tea. You like it served in a way that is associated with what your feelings are expressive of, So in that case, then I sort of start resonating with you. And now I want to throw in 3 buzzwords. In comms and marketing and in psychology, and of course in philosophy, they are called the pathos, ethos, and logos. So these are emanating from Greek words where you want to appeal to the emotions, you want to appeal to the logic. Of course, you also want to appeal to the actual aspects of facts, etc., or reasoning itself. So when you manage to appeal to these 3 things, then in a way you start influencing the perception and attitude. If you influence the perception and attitude of someone, then you influence their behavior, they take action. So this is it. Cedric is looking for a job. I'll have to influence the perception of the employer that, hey, they should think this Cedric guy is a good guy. But besides influencing that perception, I need to take it to the next step so that I influence the attitude. And they start saying, I like this guy, probably we need to have him. But that's not enough. Then I need to influence their behavior, which is the action they take after that. And I say, I influence their ability to then employ you. And they say, this guy is a good guy. We like him, everything, but now let's hire him. So how do you do that? Let's take now what you had asked initially, communicating in the case of a job hunting. And job hunting has 3 phases. So we are going to distribute that into those 3 phases. The first letter is when you're looking for the job itself. Then the second one is where you write for the cover letter and the CV. And then the third one is when you enter the interview itself. So let's start with the job hunt. Assuming you're somebody who is aggressive and you're in a networking event, or simply you just call an organization and you'd like to work with them. What do you say? You don't say, hello, Safaricom, my name is Cedric. Cedric, I want to work with you, Safaricom, because you're a good employer. That's wrong. Because then you haven't communicated your intent, neither have you communicated the intent or the values or the desires of Safaricom. How about we rephrase that and say, hello, my name is Cedric. I see what Safaricom does in terms of transforming people's lives. And I, on this end, and I also know that for Safaricom to achieve that objective of transforming people's lives, Safaricom does this, and that. And within the communications department, or within the IT department, or within the customer care department, you already are doing this, and that. And the skills you need is somebody who is very tenacious, or somebody who has the ability to speak nicely to customers, and somebody who can communicate well to them. Cedric over here has those abilities because this is what I can do. This is what I can do. I can speak to customers nicely.
Yes.
I have good customer care voice, etc., etc. So in such a way, your expression, what you are selling out, is definitely aligned to what Safaricom wants. And that goes to the cover letter. So whenever you're writing your cover letter again, you have to express that. Most of the time, we go very robotic on the cover letter. I hereby apply for sales representative at Safaricom. And I apologize, we are going to be using Safaricom all the way to the end. We just pick one example, yeah? So I hereby apply. It's such a robot. You don't appeal to emotions. You don't appeal to pathos, ethos, and logos, yeah? So you start from that perspective where we acknowledge the emotional connection that Safaricom has with people. And so you also have to establish that connection. I'm attracted by Safaricom's mission to transform people's lives through simple solutions. Something of that sort, maybe your introductory paragraph. And then you now talk about what you are passionate about. Driven by my keen passion for using digital marketing to convert sales into maybe purchases, and using maybe the same to influence people's behaviors in the digital space. I'm excited to express my interest in this role. So you sort of communicate that you're applying, but you're communicating it in a way that appeals to someone's emotions. They see, wow, this guy is passionate about this, and that's why he's applying for this role. Yeah. And then now you proceed now to...
Sorry to cut you short. On that aspect of writing the cover letter, most people whom I know, obviously, have a template that is always ready for a cover letter.
Yeah.
So the only thing that they work with is just at the salutations, it's okay. So what they are just changing is the company name there, and maybe if there is those post office number, that's the only thing they change, but the whole body is the same. So you're saying that the same communication can't apply to different entities or companies.
Very right, and I apologize for sneezing there on camera. You're very, very right, because you've just given us an example of worst case scenario, or a bad example to be using in this case, which is a good thing, because we have a bad example to use as a good example. The reason most of us, of course, don't really invest in application is something to worry about, yeah, because you are just taking a cover letter and then you are sort of editing name here and there, of course, sometimes going with all the mistakes. It means you've not put your whole heart into that application. You're simply trying to tick boxes that I've applied for this one, let me apply for that one. I personally, if you allow me to give an example, I could take a whole day to just write one cover letter. And you may think, oh, this guy is actually a good communicator, he should write that cover letter in a minute. Because I look at the points of alignment. Where do I want to align myself to based on what Safaricom does? I will take a whole day Googling, looking at Safaricom's vision, mission, values, what their employees say actually that they like about Safaricom. And then I have to communicate that in a way that even if it appeals to me too, then let me communicate it in that cover letter. A cover letter is an opportunity for you to talk to the recruiter. Because assuming a job has 2,000 applicants, how do you get past that first door? You have to communicate, and of course, as if you are really using this as your last ever application you're doing on earth, and if you don't get this job, you're done. So that's why you invest even more than a day towards it. You are not supposed to be using 10 minutes to write a cover letter. If you're using 10 minutes or even an hour, probably you're getting it wrong, yeah? So you invest that amount of time towards that cover letter. And of course, before you brought in that good example of a bad example, we were at the point where now you've already appealed to emotions. Now start appealing to the facts and reasoning and the logic. So you start talking about the actual skills and experiences that you have. You're experienced in digital marketing. You've done this for the past 2 years. You've done digital marketing for maybe 4 brands. Give the actual facts, numbers, and figures. Most of the time, we never say those. We always say, I've done digital marketing, full stop, or I've done it for 3 years. Tell us even for how many brands. If you're able to list them, do it. It gives you an edge over the rest, because then you're using what we call the STAR model, which employers use actually in an interview, where you give the situation, the actual timeline, but you also go to the actual actions that you undertook within that role. and say what you did in those roles. Of course, you see a cover letter as something that should be 3 paragraphs. Personally, I invest like a full page in a cover letter. It's always about 350 to 450 words. And then I reduce the font, which is wrong anyway. You could take it to 2 pages, but I feel that's excessive. So I use a smaller font, but a decent font, and compress it into one page. And of course, you conclude again now by appealing again to both to the emotions and the facts. That given the skills and qualifications that you've expressed here, you're very much prepared to sort of help the organization achieve its objectives of transforming people's lives. Something of that sort. Finish it with a bang, just the same way you started with a bang. Now I can start reading comments and my trail of thought, Francis. Thank you, Francis. So that's actually how a cover letter should be fully invested in terms of time, in terms of emotions, in terms of facts, in terms of logic, in terms of reasoning, in terms of font. We need to put that too. And then, of course, in the CV as well, that should be communicated without lying, seeing that this job wants this particular skill set. Is it something you have, but you've not put it in on the... Please.
On the CV, that's actually what I was going to ask you about. Many people have different CVs and they write them differently with very many things, including marital status. You will tell us if that is okay to have a marital status on the CV, but some people have up to like so out of uni and they have like 5 pages of CV. Is that something that someone is supposed to have from your experience as a communication specialist?
As a communication specialist, lol. Ideally, there's no standard. And if I came here and say this is a standard for a CV or resume, then I would be outrightly lying to the bigger public. Yeah? But what do I recommend as an individual? First, I think it's more important to be very succinct, precise, and straight to the point, without omitting what's necessary. So let's start with the unnecessary things that can maybe shorten it from the start. It doesn't matter that you're married. It doesn't matter that you're single unless it was asked. It doesn't matter your age unless it was asked. It doesn't matter where you come from unless it was asked. Unless the job says you want somebody based in Nairobi, then you definitely... It categorically says we want somebody in Kericho, then you have to categorically say probably on the cover letter based in Kericho or in the CV itself. Yeah. Or if you're applying for an international job, then you definitely say you're from Kenya. So take out those ones. And the reason we take out those is probably they'll actually stop you at the door, because then you're giving somebody a reason to introduce unnecessary bias and say, Cedric is just 15 years old. We needed 16, so let us take him out. And probably you would have listened to Cedric at the interview. You would have actually loved him. The marital status as well, yeah, completely unnecessary. And probably somebody may not be biased against you. But once in a while, probably you could find somebody who says, a single person for this role probably is not yet ready to handle this, yeah. Or somebody says, a married person for this role will be too busy. We want a young tax for this digital marketing role. So probably that takes out those biases that will have stopped you at the door. Take them out completely, but it also shortens your CV, as we have said.
Yeah.
Now, going straight to the point, what is necessary? It matters if you belong to any professional organization, put it there. It matters that you put all your contacts there in terms of cell phone and email. It also matters for people to then know your educational background. So it matters for them to see your career experience. I don't think people are interested in hobbies, but if you have enough space, for sure you can include that if it is necessary. If you're applying for a choir master role, it's a nice thing to see that your hobby is playing the keyboard. But if Cedric is applying for a digital marketing role, I wonder why it's necessary for people to know that Cedric is good in chapatis for sure, which he is actually on screen here, I would dare say. But probably you could put that and keep it to the end, yeah? Key achievements are very important. These are sections we always leave out. Be sure that you have a section that highlights some of your key achievements. And we always have small wins. We always think that's not an achievement. You don't have to, I'm again bringing this back, and somebody will say this guy is too proud. You don't have to win a 2019 Young PR Professional of the Year award for you to put it as an achievement. I think the fact that, Cedric, if you've done 10 shows like this, the alternative voice, that's quite an achievement. You definitely have to put it. Francis is over here, very nice guy in geotechnology. I don't know what right word it is, because that's quite some nice stuff that Francis does. But if Francis has done maybe geo mapping for 2 counties, I think that's quite an achievement, mapping a whole county and doing 2. I know Francis has done close to half of this country, and that's quite an achievement he could put on the CV. So look at those key instances that even you yourself, this is quite my personal achievement. It doesn't have to be the achievement of someone else. So keep those. Now, in terms of how many pages, I think if you are a fresh graduate, it goes without saying your CV may go up to 2 pages, and somebody is calling it CV, somebody is calling it resume. I call it resume because it's that succinct. And so usually I always submit a resume than a CV, because I want to leave a CV to Professor Makau Mutua for his 15-page CV, the curriculum vitae. So for me, I want to call it a resume, and probably it's time for all of us to start knowing that most of the time our 2-page CV is actually a resume. Today we're in a modern world with digital tools. Stand and get an edge over the rest. And you're a young person probably who is watching this. So make it a bit colorful. Probably find a dim color that you want for your CV. Divide it into column. One column shows the achievement. One column shows your career experience. And probably I could have come with my CV over here and put it here. No.
So
anyway,
it's not good to write it like many people, some people do, like a composition on a white paper, downwards to the second page, to the third.
While it's not dangerous to do so, I think somebody who makes it more appealing and visually acceptable, with even graphs on what your skills are, I think it gets your foot on the door, because it becomes one of those CVs you can easily notice out of 2,000. How do you get your CV to be noticed out of 2,000? If all the 2,000 are white, for sure one that has a blue color somewhere will definitely be noticed. The other thing now you've said is writing a composition, and you don't need the composition. You need to show what you've done. And another mistake people do on that point is you talk about either present or past tense, or you confuse tenses. So in one experience that you are a digital marketer, maybe in 2019 or 2020, the previous year, you are using continuous tense, and you say editing digital videos, writing articles. No, that was 2020. What you did was wrote articles, edited videos, transcribed audio. You see, something of that sort. So keep in mind the tenses, the vocabulary. I know the time is short to literally say everything that a CV should contain, but I think the tenses matters for each experience. If it's current job, then use present continuous tense. And there's a difference between present continuous tense and the present participle, where you use the gerunds ing, writing, writes, plays piano, playing piano. So which one do you use in this case? So playing piano, that's the gerund ing, but plays piano, takes children to school. That shows you it's something you're constantly doing today. And that should be the language you use on your current section for 2019 to date. That's fast. And in terms of ordering, start with the latest experience, and then you go down to the next. Some people always say, hey, this experience was big, let me put it first. It's just in order that put your current, then the previous, and then they go in that order. It shows you're somebody who is well organized. And one thing that, and I know you want to come in, I just wanted to put an extra comment to it just before you come in. One thing we don't realize is some of the people reviewing these CVs are super high intellectuals, and they really want to move very fast. One character you'll find with a good number of them, I'm not saying all of them, it's OCD, that obsessive, is it cleanliness disorder or something, but doesn't mean the CV should be clean. It means everything should look neat, aligned in one order. So not that here you use a different font, the next one you use a different font. Somebody sees that and it's immediate turn off, or what you call red flag. Yeah, exactly. So you try to ensure that the font is the same, they are arranged in the same way. How you start your date is the same. If you say 2021 to 2023, that should be the next one, even should look like that. Not that now you start with more university than 2021. So just ensure those little things are visible and they look neat. Thank you, and back to you.
Yes, thank you very much. And this is a very awesome conversation. I can see there are a lot of comments coming in here from our audience. And We will have to move fast. At least let me read a few questions from the audience before I get back to you with more questions as we wind up. We have some few things that we haven't tackled yet. So allow me read this from my screen here. And a question here on awesome insights on job hunting, buffering. That's Beda Otieno tuned in. Very true. I agree with him. They are agreeing
Beda
with
is a
what you
pixel perfect graphic designer. He designs
yeah,
something
Beda.
to the last pixel. Yeah. Excellent.
Very amazing job that he does there with better graphics. Ruth Simbolei, nowadays there is this online format for writing resume, which is maybe easiest way to some of us. So is it professional? Is it? I think you'll just have to pick for those who are having questions. Just pick them up, then you will answer them. Best Star Prof, thank you very much for tuning in to the show. Someone here loves this talk. That is our producer who is off today, all the way from India, Daniel Jaka, and quickest recovery to Daniel Jaka. So that he will be back on this job next week. We hope so. Joyce Terry. Someone is touched there with chapatis. Kisungu legit. I waited for this. Kisungu, Dekker, Kisungu. Aya, one here. This is so good. That's the Millennial Christian. That is Julie Wangui. Tuned into the show as well. In CV writing, that's Edwin Otieno. Brevity is a sign of wit. The shorter, the better. Wow. Well put there, Edwin. Thank you very much. And CV, yes, there are people who have CVs even up to 10 pages. Hey, Buana, this guy, that is Francis Omondi is also tuned. Joyce Terry, I knew I wasn't wrong to tune in. Good insights here, Dekker. Wow, tuned. Salimia Dekker. Dekker umesalimiwa pale na Memi Bree. Nani mwingine? Abi Chebi is also following the discussion. Hey, who is this? Who is this also tuned in to the show? Someone I hereby. Helen Marura is also tuned. Thank you very much, Helen, for tuning in. Congratulations, T19. Adorable magician there is loving the discussion we are having. Loud and clear from Los Angeles. Hey, Uko, when did you fly? You did not alert us, Buana. Alex Onsase, hello all. Where did the other TAV show go? Loving this one too. Salimia Mgeni. TAV shows, we will be communicating. We will be having our own relaunch, a mega relaunch, and we will be communicating to you how we shall be having our shows very soon. So just keep tuned into the show and on to our platforms. Eddie Pedro is following. Thank you, Eddie. Nicole Caroline Omolo, thanks for tuning into the show and following. Best Prof is tuned in. Thank you very, very much for all of you who have tuned. I can see we are so many, and there is just a lot that we are supposed to talk about. So please keep sending your questions for those who have questions. Moise Bridge tuned in. Village Boy Otieno is tuned in. Thank you very much, Village Boy, for tuning in to the show. As well as so many of you are sending questions, and Dekker, you'll just answer that before any question you have picked. Then we get into the interview bit. Just briefly, I can see we are almost up to 30 minutes, and then we will get into that professional, someone is at the workplace, and those who are running businesses, just briefly as we wind up. So any question you've picked, Dekker?
I've picked a number of them in the comments, and thank you so much for all those comments, including those on YouTube. I can see my good friend Abdul Karim Yakubu from Nigeria. Thank you very much. Abdul Karim is actually a comms professional with Medecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders.
Yes.
Excellent chap, yeah? Amazing chap. I can see also Gishimu is also tuned in. Gishimu was my comrade back in Moi. And of course, a number of everyone else who has put all those nice comments.
Yes, and yeah, awesome. You can go ahead.
So as I respond to the question, thank you, Abdul. I can also see the comments by Edwin and those that you shouldn't ignore. Edwin Ouma, or the village boy, where he mentions brevity is key. He also mentions value proposition, which I'll come to, because even in communicating in a relationship, there's that value proposition. Communicating your intent in a way that it aligns with the intent of the other person. So if you are hoping to couple someone, then you definitely also have to communicate what you're offering in that relationship in a way that aligns with what they want. Anataka kijana anakula chapati mzuri, but huyu anataka msichana anapika chapati mzuri. So you're all aligned in that way, yeah? So the question from Ruth is a good one, and again, one not to ignore. So Ruth, yes, there's these online CV formats. It makes your work easier. Probably if you're somebody who's struggling with creating your own CV, not everybody is a good designer, Cedric or Asbeda, who is also tuned in here, to come up with their own design for the CV. So it means you can always use these tools. What you shouldn't copy paste is the language as well as what's there in the contents, because then that's definitely not the best thing. It's not communicating who you are, but the format is fine if it feeds in the right information. I know of one format because there are certain organizations which need those to help them scan through very quickly. For example, if you're applying for a job in the European Union, there are those entities that prefer what we call the Europass format, and you may Google that. It's a nice format. So you can always look at Europass format and see what do they want. All these sections that we mentioned, I always put there in the Europass format. So when you look at it, you look at those sections, then you copy paste the same and put them in sort of your design. You don't have to take everything in terms of the language, because I too know Europass format has its own limitations, and probably the employers who wouldn't be taking that. So it's okay to use those CV formats. Just ensure that the content that is going there is yours. And then also it shouldn't be too flowery. I know because we said color, a bit of color here, then now people are going to put pink on one side and blue on the side and yellow, and for sure that's of course now too much, and that's why Edwin says brevity is key. So probably we can also recommend certain colors. One is teal blue, TEAL. That's one of the very calm colors, and you can blend that with gray. You don't need black. Black is too intense unless you're using it for a small corner or a good section, maybe the titles, background, profession. Other colors you may use is the deep blue. Probably the one you're seeing on your screen here, but also this one is one of those colors that really is so strong, so you want to use it for a nice section somewhere. The Facebook blue is a good one. The Twitter blue is the teal blue. It's perfect. Put it somewhere there, and also blend that with the gray. You can also use the brown, the deep brown color for a certain section and blend that with a bit of orange here and there. Of course, these are free classes now in graphics design. Better is probably better at this. I can see Faustine is also commenting on the same. Probably I shouldn't look at these comments now that they distract my flow of thought. But that is in terms of how you want your CV to look like. So next thing, you've gotten the chance to go to the interview. How do you sort of communicate?
You are now at the interview panel now. How are you supposed to address your answers to pass out? You introduce yourself to the panel. Let's say it's a panel of 3-4 people. Then how do you give your answers on the panel? And we will just keep this brief because of the time.
Thank you for saying we keep this brief so that next time we come for a full session on interview, because it's a full session. I'd want to start from the psychology. As soon as you enter that interview room, remember you're interacting with human beings. So it matters a lot that your psychology resonates with their psychology. Come in, smile. Everybody who smiles is sort of 80% better than they look in real life. So smile. That 80% is our own figment of my imagination, my creation, but it actually works. Statistics should say something between 60 to 70%. But I know for sure when you smile as huge as Cedric here, and we can always see up to the gum, that's perfect. But you don't exaggerate it, because your smile also has to resonate with your eyes, how it dims in a smaller way. So that's a good thing. Of course, you don't take a seat until you are offered one. If you're offered tea, water, etc., take that happily. If you're offered tea and there's only one spoon, just take the tea, don't use that spoon. It shows you're selfish and you won't give a chance to the next person to use it. If you're offered tea, don't put sugar before you taste. It means you're somebody who's judgmental. You already think this tea is not having sugar. That's a whole section we can always talk about. Anyway, now you've sat down and there's no tea, and it's an easy way. Nobody's testing your ability to take tea.
From what you're saying, the interview begins even before it begins.
Exactly. Very small things people never look at. But you apply for institutions which are serious as banks. There's always be somebody at the corner who doesn't say anything. He observes literally your demeanor, because your demeanor, that's your behavior, how literally, of course, demeanor, even the smaller bits of your demeanor definitely count. We never look at those, even how you take your seat, etc. Of course, don't be too cautious. Just be human. Sit down. As they introduce themselves, always carry a notebook. I always say, people think it's going with a Mwakenya. Just go there with an empty book. And then you say, would you allow me to then use a notebook in this interview? They say, fine. What it shows is that this is somebody who is very intelligent. You understand that as a human being, you may not hear all questions. But that is what it communicates to them. To you as a person, the notebook really helps you keep your confidence and your calm very rightly. Because even if you pretend you're writing, you're scribbling something, it helps. But above all, you should scribble something so that when somebody asks you a question, you note it down in a way that you will respond to it. It also helps you arrange your thoughts when you're looking at that notebook. When somebody's asking a question, you can actually put how your answers will be. But that's towards into the introduction, yeah? So when they introduce yourself, so the way the panelists have sat, write their names in that order, because you may not remember who is James, who is John, and who is Michael. Or let me put in the gender aspect. Your 2/3 guys don't say. So you want to know who is Joyce, who is Francis, or who is Edwin, yeah? So put in the order in which they are seated. So if a question comes from this end and you say, that is actually Joyce asking this question. So you note down Joyce. When you begin answering the question, you say, thank you very much, Joyce, for that question. Let me tell you what this does. Human beings are all the same. We all love our names. Nobody doesn't love his name. Of course, that is broken English, but everybody loves the sound of their name. And then you say, Cedric, thank you very much for that question. I know you've been enjoying it when I mentioned your name here. Okay, I'm kidding. But in a panel interview, it's nice to respond to people with their names. It shows you somebody is considerate, but above all, they love it. What it does, again, it communicates to them psychologically. This person is our person. He already knows me. He already feels like he should know me. You see something of that sort. That is one. So you note their names when they ask you a question. When you are asked a question, it helps to nod. Of course, don't do it dramatically. What it does, again, is this person feels this person is really aligned to me. And when you are answering the question, once in a while nod. Even if you're saying the wrong answer, they'll take it. This is because subconscious, and people never know the power of the subconscious mind. When you're communicating with someone's subconscious, it's even more powerful than the conscious aspect of it. So when you nod and you find Moja na nod hivi, saa zingine hata skew what you're saying. They also want to feel like they're listening to you. And so whatever that answer you spew, even if it wasn't the right one, there's a way you gain a bit of acceptance, yeah? That is now how you respond to questions. Now, how do you respond? If one person asks you the question, is seated at the middle. Remember, you are addressing the whole panel. You don't address only this person. So you start by looking, when you start answering, you look at this person, then you pan your eyes through the other persons in the room. So you go to the person maybe on the left or the right, then you go to this other person. As you're still answering, when you finish your answer, your eyes must rest on the person who answered that, who asked the question. You're making everyone feel engaged. So that's psychology. So psychology gives you probably more than up to 60 or 70% of getting this right. Yeah. Sometimes, Francis. Sometimes, you're asked a question that you don't know. Again, it helps to be very honest. And I always say, don't say I don't know. So always attempt. There's always a marks for attempt. So you start by, I may not know the right answer to that question. Or you can use a disclaimer, another one that says, probably what I'm going to respond to is not actually the answer you're looking for. But if I attempt to respond to that, X, Y, and Z, and you're done. Yes. And then you listen to what they say. If somebody tells you it's actually not that one, it's because there are some panelists who fight with you and tell you, no, it's not that one. Then you say, oh, thank you very much for bringing that to my light. I think after this interview, this is one of those areas that I'm going to actually look into. So it shows you're a solutions-oriented person. You don't know, but you respond to it. So we are done with psychology. Now let's go to the questions.
Get to the questions, right? Yeah.
Thank you. And I don't know how much time we have so that I don't delve into too many questions. Question one that you'll always find from the start of the year to the end of the year, from 19 Patopuk to today, is tell us about yourself. Again, Cedric, nobody cares if Cedric is the last born of 50 siblings. What matters to the employer is Cedric the guy who is going to do this job. So your introduction, even though it's your CV, you don't make it sound like you're telling your CV, but you talk about your CV literally. My name is Cedric. Up to this point, I've graduated at Moi University with a bachelor of this. I've been doing this, and that. This is what I've achieved so far, etc., etc. Align it very much towards qualification and experience. Excellent. Where will you be? And I'm skipping to the right to other questions. Where will you be in the next 5 years? No employer, of course, some do care, but most probably don't care. Where will this chap be in the next 5 years? What they care about is this the guy who will stay with us, or amekuja cause anatafuta hii kazi na akipata ingine ataenda. So you definitely also have to express your enthusiasm and how you are looking forward to growing. And of course, most of us say, I want to be the head of. That means so selfish. You want to just grow vertically. You also have to express that you want to grow cross-sectionally, not horizontally, cross-sectionally. So you want to be in this organization, gain a number of skills across different functions and departments, so that probably in the next 5 years, if you're a leader, of course, now you've said if you've gone vertically, so if you're a leader in this department, you're able to handle the task in a way that it contributes to probably the mission, objectives, blah, blah, blah of the organization. Another question they ask, most of these, I won't give you answers, but I'll just give you prompts. Probably earlier people used to tell us your weakness. Today you're not asked, tell us your weakness. Maybe one or two will ask, but you'll be asked, tell us about a time that XX, somebody was not happy with your work or something. You did something and it was not pleasing. So in such a case, somebody wants to see how probably you handle emotions or how you manage people or how you work with people. So definitely your answer can always be as truthful as possible, yes. But also at the end of that answer, tell people how you managed it. What matters is how you solved that wrong problem. If you're talking about, if they ask you straight about your weakness, so tell us, yes, that's a nice weakness. Of course, never tell us again that you are a perfectionist. That's a non-lie. Today, everybody says that. So tell us another weakness, but tell us how you've managed to overcome it. Lakini usichome sana na hiyo weakness. Ati, hey, me, I don't survive with people. Hey, and you want to work with people? No. Usichome sana, yeah. Other questions are the salary question. Probably will keep.
Yes, about the money, actually. Yeah. Yes, that is it.
But now I'm giving people the answers I will be using probably in the next few years or months or decades. The salary question, probably it's good for somebody because the interview starts before you come to the interview. It's important that you sort of research, ask, make phone calls, go to Glassdoor. They'll give you figures in dollars at Glassdoor, but sort of give the average range this position is offering. That is one. Two, when you come to the role, when they ask you that question, give them a chance not to ask you that question again. Throw it back to them, and you probably say that I understand that organization X, and Y. Mention them by name. People love their name. We say that as the cardinal rule. So mention, I know alternative voice has its own salary scale that appreciates people based on, or that rewards people based on their skills, expertise, and blah, blah, blah. And probably I'm happy and flexible to fit into that scale. They tell us, no, you tell us what you want. Now, that's where you say what you want. Now, again, on what you want, don't give a range. A range means the lowest you give in that range is what will be taken. If you want between 10 to 20,000, they will take 10,000, and you shouldn't complain because you are acceptable to between 10 and 20,000. So how do you get the right answer? Either take the average of that range you're comfortable with, or take the highest range you're comfortable with. Of course, this one now, there's no right or wrong answer. Kama umechoma sana ni shida yako. But again, look at the market industry. Some of us, you finish school, you want a job at 100K. Unless you're going to work for some huge tech or oil company that makes so much in turnover and has a huge, or you're going to work for an organization that one of its policies pay people 6 figures. So start with what the market rate offers. I know if you graduate today, for an internship, probably 20 to 30K. For an entry-level position, 30 to 60K. For probably somebody who has done a year and a half, probably 60 to 80. Or somebody who has done 2 years, 80 to 100. 2.5 years up to 150K. 3 years now goes up to 200. Now up to 4 years, then now you start talking about 250, 300. Of course, there are different jobs which offer different things. But that's sort of like the average you'll always find, and you feel safe around it. And then now you can now look at your qualifications and then I'll say, probably I need this. Also look at your past experience, what you are earning. Try to increase it. Of course, try always to increase it by either 30 to 40%. But if you want to do it 50 or double, that's fine. Yeah, because they ask you for your previous payslip, but also what you're comfortable with. You may gamble with double or 3 times, and somebody you'll be lucky. They'll actually be offering that. But remember the cardinal rule again: give them a chance. Give them a chance to let you skip that question by your first response. With that, you come out as not so selfish. You come out as somebody who is actually considerate. Then when you give your answer, now the figure you had mentioned, also give a disclaimer that you're flexible. You can adjust on the lower side if that's what they require. But if they want you to adjust to a higher side, tell them you'll happily accept that and you'll give them value for money. Yeah? Which other question do you think they asked that we should respond to?
Yeah. I think we have tackled all questions, unless someone has another question from the comment section, which I'll be checking on the interviews. But let's get into this.
Oh, there's one more question.
Yes.
I forgot about it. Why do you want this job? Or why this company? Or why are you the best person? So let's distinguish the two. Why
yes,
this company?
Why should we hire you?
Why should we hire you? That has to do the pathos, ethos, logos thing. Start with the emotional aspect. Don't start with the hardcore skills. Start with how your values and passions and what you stand for resonate with them. So once you're done with that part, convince the values part, then I'll go to the skills, and then I'll add what extra you bring. Because you always say in digital marketing, probably everybody is just a digital marketer. They know a bit of Google skills, etc. Then you add that you also know SEO, or you also know video, something that puts you an edge over the rest. So those 3 aspects: how your values resonate with them, then what are your skills, and then what else do you bring on the table. So that will answer like 3 or 5 questions, like why should we hire you? Why are you the best person for this job? Why do you feel you are better than the other candidates? Something of that sort. Of course, you never agree that you're better than other candidates. Yeah.
So briefly, what you're trying to say is that when you're answering a question like that or the previous ones, you should actually be answering to the job description, the job description of the job that you are applying for.
Exactly. Yeah. You shouldn't be responding to they want a cook, but you are responding about a cleaner. You can only add the part that you are also good in cleaning at the end, so that it brings the fact that vitu zikichafuka hapa kwa vyombo, huyu jamaa anaenda kusafisha. So you also show, because in an age where people do redundancy and Edwin has the right words, where they try to trim and have a very small lean kind of stuff. People should have the ability to multitask. Not all of us have that ability, but probably all of us do. Look at what else can you always do in a work environment, so that you also show your ability to be a multitasker or versatile. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So let's get into this. Very many young people, because of the economy, there is no work, and very many young people have gotten into creating their own employment, like self-employment, and in that aspect, they get chances maybe to hire a person or 2 or 3, then grow into a company. But then with that, many don't have the training of communication on how they are supposed to communicate as the young bosses of their businesses, running a business, and how they are supposed to communicate to their employees. So in that aspect, what would you tell a young person who has just started their own business and they're adding a person or 2?
Thank you. And this is something not only just all employers, but more importantly to young people. And there's the bit around emotional intelligence. And remember, workplace is people, not just the actual work. That's why HR departments world over today, they're transitioning. You find that in some organizations, they don't have the title HR department. They call it the people department. Because people have realized that in an organization, it's the people. Previously, we've put emphasis that you're a resource. You need to get this done. You forget that this is an individual who has emotions, feelings. They have family. They have people who respect them. They have people who depend upon them. When you look at somebody that way, then one value will come in foremost, which is respect. And so people always sometimes forget that part, because you are the boss then, especially the young people who have started up their own startups, etc. Remember that every person you are dealing with has their own innate human capability, their own humanness, what makes us human, and you have to respect those things. And so deal with people very politely and humbly and respectfully. We always don't think that human beings are so resistant. when you try to change them. But when you don't want to change them, they'll change. So it's the same way you tell somebody, have you done this? Have you taken this off? Why is your desk not this? Why have you not done this? So you are putting in some force, and force is always met by force. So the force they'll meet you with may not be the exact force you expect, that they'll tell you, well, talk up and nini. They'll do it in a different way. Either they won't deliver, they'll be on a go slow, or they takes out that aspect of a seamless working, because you've taken out respect. And some of the organizations that thrive globally very well, there's a lot of respect for every person in the organization. 2, if you're a reader of books, currently one of the books I'm reading is The Laws of Human Nature. And you realize Robert Greene tells you, if you want somebody
but
to...
what's that book again?
Laws of Human Nature. So Robert Greene is the author of 48 Laws of Power, The Laws of Seduction, and of course now The Laws of Human Nature, among other books that Edwin will list for you here. And he'll tell you that people actually unaware of what they are doing. We may look like we are aware of what we are doing even now, but the reality is that human beings are not aware of their behavior, their actions, their emotions, etc. So for you to change that, you don't have to bring it to the intention that, you're actually a very bad person at doing this. You may want to tell them, how about if we did this? And then you give them an opportunity to feel like they're in control. That how about you propose, be a proposer. And when there's a course called Investment in Excellence. You are taught how to resonate with people. You be a proposer rather than a commander. So when you propose that, how about we start our meeting at 9 a.m.? Of course, you are saying, let's do the meeting at 9 a.m., but you're giving somebody a chance to accept and actually agree. Actually, I think 9 a.m. is a good time. A human being, when they feel they're in control and they're in charge, they give it their best. And so when they say, I agree, 9 a.m. is actually a nice time, they'll be there on time. But if you say, let us be here by 9 a.m., trust me, I saw that meme you posted today online where Kenyans, the plane departs at 8, they'll be there at 8 or 5, hoping that the plane has not departed at 8. Yeah. So it's the same way when you propose to people. How about we go out? It even works in other aspects of life, relationships. When you are a proposer, you get things done your way more than if you command. It's you're making somebody feel they have an opportunity. And yes, for sure, sometimes you shouldn't do it just because you know the answer that how about 9 a.m. If they tell you for sure 9 a.m. I'm not able to make it because of this, I can't meet that deadline because I have these other tasks. You start becoming a team player. Okay, then how can I help you get this task done so that by 9 a.m. we surely meet this prospective funding company? You see, something of that sort. So all of you then move together. You don't want to move alone. As they always say, walk alone if you want to do what? I don't know it. I'll keep it there. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think you've given us several points there where how someone is supposed to act when they find themselves being the bosses at the workplace, because most of the people don't know how they are supposed to behave in that environment. Maybe they had a bad experience with their boss and now they are the bosses. They want to boss around. Yeah, you have a point there to add on.
Yeah. And I was saying this is on the boss himself. How about you who is being treated that way with your boss? Again, people are subconsciously aware of what they are doing. So again, you also have an opportunity to transform someone by also being the person who also helps them become better people. Sometimes we forget that even the toxic people, because nobody is toxic, the toxic people don't have an opportunity to change, and you can change them. If somebody is asking you and is telling you, commanding you to do this, and that, you don't resist immediately. So you take it on. Then find an opportunity at a sober time when they're calmer, probably in the evening at the end of the work. So tell them this work is done, but when you spoke to me that time, the tone didn't come out nicely, and I felt that you violated this, and that, and it doesn't work nicely for me. So this person, whether they don't accept that point, remember human beings will always have a time where they think about themselves. Either kwa kwacho, of course, asipoenda na simu, but akioga ama akiosha vyombo, where haezi shika simu. So they'll get to think by day that guy had a point. Even if they fire you, you've helped the next employer. Of course, you also don't come out and expressing it so strongly, because these are challenges that should exist in every normal workplace. Young people always think, mimi nikiongeleshwa vibaya, I'm out. And it can never be green on the other side. It's always just painted green. So you accommodate people, and that becomes a feature that helps you really thrive for longer. if you're able to accommodate people and the different personalities, because not everybody is going to be as jovial and happy as Cedric. People have their own things they're dealing with beyond work. So that will be another course altogether on root causes. If you're somebody who can always find root causes and you address. I think the reason this guy is so mad at me is because somebody on the other side has done this, and if you can always solve that, then it will solve your case. But another discussion altogether.
Wow, thank you. An amazing discussion we have had here, and I don't know if there are any other questions. That's John Short commenting there. Who else? Ego is the enemy from Edwin Otieno, saying that ego is the enemy. Hi, late but nangoja update. Thank you very much for tuning in though late, Bal. Thank you for tuning into the show. Kevin Otieno Molo already in pass my regards to Mr. Dekker, PC, Kevin Omolo. Thank you very much for tuning in, PC. And wow, mnanichanua, our producer there from India, amechanuliwa. Asante sana. Your unique selling point, USP, matters in the interview. That is from Edwin Ouma. He had a question here. I don't know if you handled it. Talk about ATS, applicant tracking system. Very educative there from Doris Njoroge, Dorin Josh. Thank you very much for tuning in. And Deko menifanya nataka kurudi class ya communication from year 1. Omolo there. Awesome tips shared by Mr. William Dekker. I did a mock interview with him recently and landed a job. I'm so grateful. So if
my M-Pesa is open. My M-Pesa is open for still.
You can see. So if you're missing this interview, this is something that you are supposed to be up to. And we had read the other questions. So that question there by, or let's just finish up. Amazing session today. Thank you, Dekker, and alternative voice for this, Helen Marura. Sante sana, Helen, for tuning into the show. And good evening, Dekker, Samuel. That is Sam Oriwo. Thank you very much for tuning into the show. Yeah, you can pick up what Edu has said there as we wind up.
The applicant tracking system is mostly used by organizations where people send in lots of applications. So somebody may not sit in front of a computer and review 5,000 CV. We know on an average today, a job will attract lots of applications. I wouldn't be so specific, but probably a comms job at an officer role. If you send out a JD today and you want applicants tomorrow, you probably receive about 400 to 500 applicants. So if somebody is reviewing this, for sure, that's a human being. So you always find that it's hard for them to objectively review this. So then people use the applicant tracking system. So you say, upload your CV here. Or unapatiwa yenye you just type contents. They say, type your experience here. So that they're going to upload it into an applicant tracking system. And most of these systems are automated. So it scans through keywords and then it grades CV based on those key experiences. It says, we wanted somebody with 3 years experience. Then the system looks, today is 2021. This chap started working in 2016. So he has 4 years experience or 5. So let's take him. It also looks at, in our job description, we said a digital marketer with photography skills. Then it looks at your CV and realize it doesn't have photography. So back to the basics that we started with. Alignment. Does the chicken come to roost? As you can see, we started with alignment. So aligning with what they want, especially if it's a skill that you have. Of course, don't lie, so that at the end of the day, then when you're given the actual camera, you don't know even which lens works where. Yeah. But if these are skills you've had and you know them, probably you find it's an experience you don't have, but it's a skill you have. So always find somewhere to indicate your skill sets. Probably, and if it's something you've done and you have achievements around it, put it there. So the applicant tracking system will pick and will find those keywords and it will put them there. And then you're able to pass through to the next stage, which is not interview, but now physical review by a human being. So probably it narrows down to maybe 100 or 50 CVs and somebody can review those. So that's ATS thing. It's a whole other discussion in the HR field. People like Edwin, who are very experienced in HR, will definitely speak better than I do around that. Yeah.
Yes, I think Edu, if you are still watching, we might just be having you on the show soon. So please, if you get our call, kindly heed us and educate some of us Kenyans on these matters. Thank you very much, Dekker, for showing up to this discussion. We are very much grateful. People have learned. There are so many questions. Some are still sending them. Others we will answer them online. Thank you very much for showing up. And that is William